Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. Today's guest, Mandy McAllister, is just a ball of inspiration and joy and love. She is an apartment complex investor, and she will give you amazing tips to keep you from making silly mistakes in that arena. She is also a founding member of GoBundance for Women, and she is the CEO of GoBundance for Women. And it is just one of the most enjoyable podcasts that I think I've ever done. You will take away absolute actionable steps that you can implement right away. Please enjoy. Mandy, welcome to the program.
I'm so excited to be here, Kara. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh my goodness, I am excited that you said yes. This, I am, as I said in the introduction, everybody, this is one I'm super, super excited about. And it's like I have about 1,000 questions to ask you, but let's start kind of at the beginning. Like, where were you born, raised? How did you get to be where you are now?
So I am a farm kid from a small town in central Illinois, population like 800 or something. And everybody just kind of stays there. But I, for whatever reason, had this like audacious ability to ask why not me from a pretty early age and ended up finding a volleyball scholarship to take me to a school for undergrad, then moved to Chicago the day after I graduated there and have just kind of been on this journey of figuring myself out for the last 44 years, right? So my first job out of grad school was trading on the floor of the Board of Trade. I ended up trading upstairs, but I worked on the floor of the Board of Trade as well, and spent the bulk of my career in medical devices, and then started buying apartment buildings because I got a taste of wanting to really live a life that was true to myself. So now we're here.
Woo, that's the Reader's Digest super condensed version. I
Yes,
want to unpack it just a little bit.
let's do
Um,
it.
so what year how you left immediately after high school and went to college somewhere else?
Yep, 17 years old. And then I end up going to a school that was 12 hours away. And back before like everybody had a cell phone in the 1900s, and my parents trusted me to drive through the mountains with no cell phone. And now that I have kids of my own, I'm like, wow, I must have been trustworthy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a whole different world now. It is, and you had to do that at a 17-year-old girl. When you think about 17-year-old girls now and you've got kids, how old are your kids?
Well, I have a couple of bonus children, 14 and 11, and then the one I made is 9.
Oh, how cool is that? That's a perfect
Yeah.
amount. It's just
Yes, it is.
exactly perfect. Okay, so
It is.
so when you think of the 14-year-old, is it a male or female?
Girl, all of
When
the
you think
hormones,
of
Kara.
her, all girls, oh, sweet. When you think of your 14-year-old, 15, 16, 17, 3 years from now, driving across and leaving 12 hours away, how do you feel about that?
Nope, hard pass. That's not happening, you know.
Not going to happen. So how do you think your parents felt when you did that?
I mean, farm kid. I'd been driving tractors and such since I was like 11. So, they took me the first few times, obviously, but there were occasions coming back from Thanksgiving or Christmas that 12-hour trek was just me. So, I feel like I've kind of always been an old soul who could figure some stuff out. So I think they recognize that. And I think it, made their lives a little easier too, potentially.
That does make sense. So before we got started, we found out that we both had the same gateway drug to self-employment and self-improvement. Tony Robbins. So tell me about, how did you discover him?
Reading books, listening to books. I hit a point in my career, and I'd been married once before, and it wasn't working. And I dived into every possible book I could find to try to make the things that didn't feel right in my life better. And I, read all the books I possibly could. And then there was a real estate event where Tony was keynote, and I bought the good ticket. So I ended up sitting front row of like 11,000 people. And he did basically what ended up being I couldn't believe I'd spent $500 on this one event to sit front row. But, it ended up being the first 4 hours of his Unleash the Power Within seminar. And by the end of it, I went to the back of the room and bought the, $1,000 ticket to UPW. So it really showed me that I got a lot to figure out. And the more true I can get to who I am, the more impact I can have on the world, the better example I can be to my kids, the more clear and impactful my life can feel to myself.
Okay, so UPW, for those of you that don't know, is Unleash the Power Within. And one of the coolest things you do there is you walk on fire. Did that happen for
Yes.
you?
It sure did. I ended up doing it there. I've been back a few times. I've been crew. So I really think that that specific seminar teaches you how to manage your energy. Because by the end of that first day, when you are so tired, you have to hype yourself up in such a way to have the energy to move fast enough to not get burned on the coals. And you prove to yourself that absolutely anything is possible if you can manage your energy.
Absolutely. And I have been to UPW and Date with Destiny. And for those people who haven't, why are you so tired on the first day? You're just going to a seminar and sitting there, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I honestly, the more brain power you're putting into anything, that's more tiring to me than running 10 miles, and it starts later than you think on Tony time, and you end up, doing all of this really incredibly hard thinking, introspective work that it's stuff you should do, but anything that's easy to do is also easy not to do. And I do think I've stolen this from Tony that most people spend more time planning their Thanksgiving dinner than they plan their entire lives. Right. So you owe it to you to put some thought into whatever you want for your life.
Okay, so let's go there. You owe it to you. In other words, you have to love yourself. That sounds wrong
Right. Yeah.
until you figure it out and until you understand. When you love yourself, then what is the natural byproduct of that?
The only way to really be perfect, I feel, is to dive into the stuff that is your natural gifts. It's like the Marianne Williamson quote that the people aren't scared of their failures and of being, dark. They're scared that they are powerful beyond measure. I have a reminder in my phone every morning that, my playing small does not serve the world. Because when you kind of reposition it, I sometimes call myself a mindset ninja, and it's all about just like little bitty tweaks that help you think of things in a different light, right? And it's this idea, I talk with a lot of women that suffer from imposter syndrome, and I know that I used to as well, right? But once I realized that me just, oh no, just poor me, I'm so little, who would want to listen to a farm kid from a small town, when I realized that that's all about me, right? That is inherently selfish. Me being able to be an example of the things that can happen if you're willing to ask these audacious questions like, why not me? Why not me be the one who's giving that talk or getting that volleyball scholarship or leading that business? That is the thing that's about the message and the power and the impact rather than the, oh, poor me, right? So the minute that I had that brain flip of I'm being selfish, by being all in on myself and made it about the message, then all of that fear went away. All of that, physically shaking when I presented went completely away because it was about them and not me.
That is beautiful. I've never heard it explained better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so you go to college. How was your college world?
I was such a good little girl, Kara. I followed all of the rules and I waited my turn and I got straight A's and I raised my hand. And I was a chemistry major for 3 of the years and ended up talking. I realized like if I'm going to go to med school, like I'm committing my entire life, like beginning at the age of 17 to something that I won't get my first job until I'm like 35. So I should talk to someone who's doing this. And it ended up, I talked to somebody who probably had a bad day and was telling me, yo, you better love medicine because you're gonna be a slave to this pager. Because you're gonna be on call and you're a slave, right? And I thought, ooh, maybe I go to the business school. And interestingly enough, I ended up with a business degree and then a master's in economics, and kind of ascended the ladder of medical device sales. So now I'm not a doctor, but I'm on friggin' call because of medicine in the business world, right? So the thing that I didn't want to happen in my life, I ended up creating for myself many years later.
Isn't it funny how we do that? We all do that. And ladies and gentlemen that are listening, please hear me. The things that you don't want the most and you think about, you bring about.
Mhm.
You create that. If you had I don't know, alcoholic parents, a lot of times you'll recreate that in your own family, even though you hated it. If you had abuse, you might recreate that in your own family, even though you hated it, right? And so you have to be a ninja um, to kind of get past that. So you recreated that. You're on call. You're doing medical sales. You're making a boatload of money, and to the whole rest of the world, it looks like, oh my
Ugh.
gosh, Mandy is so successful. But
I
inside,
Oh yeah, and I had the house that was real big, bigger than I wanted, and I had the baby, and in my first marriage, like it just it wasn't working. We want very different things out of life, and we're much better friends than we were married partners, and we've got a great relationship today, and we do a fantastic job making sure that our son knows both parents, and I this belief that I had to shoehorn something into what existed was hard to get my brain around, right? That I had committed to all of these things that was the right way of doing things, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like something that I wanted to get out of bed to do, right? And I had gotten very unhealthy because I was, soothing myself with all of the wrong things, food, wine, all of the things that doesn't lead to a great life. And when I was able to really dial back and think about the stuff that I did want out of a great life, there was one exercise, I forget if this is Tony Robbins or not, but just sitting down in a quiet space and journaling on what does a perfect day feel like. When I wake up, what do I smell? What do I hear? Who's there? When I am I going fast? Am I going slow? When I get to work, what am I wearing? What type of conversations am I having? What type of environment am I in? When I'm winding down at night, who's there? What type of things am I doing? Right. So I realized after I had done all of this, oh my gosh, like in my dream world, yes, I'm waking up and seeing water, but I'm also smelling coffee. I can set the coffee pot to smell coffee every single morning and live one step closer to my dream life. Because what is your dream life except for a bunch of these dream days strung all together? Right? So, what step can you take today to get you in the direction of your dream life? Because maybe it's something really small like smelling coffee.
wow. Yeah, every little thing counts. So, Mandy, I do want to dig a little deeper because
Mhm.
most of our people that listen are entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
as one, you get so caught up in and the juice of every time this thing goes off, like, ooh, I'm important. Oh, I've got to do this. How did you stop long enough to take a look and see this isn't exactly what I had planned?
Mm. Honestly, it was a full immersion being at events next to people, making me question my whole life. Because one thing that I know that I did, even in my working for somebody else days, is I would confuse busyness with progress. And it is absolutely not the case. Like people brag over, oh my God, I'm so big. Like that is not a badge to be proud of. The thing I want to be proud of, I knew in my core, the thing, my big why, that I wanted to make big changes in my life. I wanted to be the mom who got to go on field trips with my kid. And I knew if I were on call in medical device sales, that that would not be the case. And I knew I wanted to live by my moral compass. And I had bosses in sometimes medical device guys get sleazy. And they were asking me to do things that I knew was not okay, and I chose in that moment, I kind of had a full on panic attack in a parking deck at a hospital that I knew in my core, I needed to do something different, to live a different life. And I ended up leaning into buying apartment buildings because that's the thing that I had begun to chase. And at some point, the money that you have coming in from that means that you don't need a day job, you know? And I hit that in 2021.
What? Passive income now for 4 years. Guys, if you're not paying attention and taking notes and listening, because success leaves clues. So tell me about your very first apartment that you bought.
Oh, girl, I was scared to death. I first got interested in real estate investing when I was 19 years old. Away at college, I was at a party at a friend's house, and she explained that her dad bought the house, and she was renting out the rooms to our friends. And I'm like, oh my God, and you get to keep that money? That's the best idea I've ever heard in my life. Must be a real estate investor. So from 19 until like 34, 35 years old, I was pregnant with my son. I realized like something clicked that you only get one go round here in this big beautiful life that we've got. So I ended up buying my first. It was a fourplex because I realized kids weren't going to stop going to school. I looked at all the neighboring schools are the ones that were a couple hours from me, and settled on Illinois State University. They were tearing down some dorms, so I knew that there would be demand for at least these 4 units, and repositioned it into a furnished rental from an unfurnished rental. And even though I thought I was going to die after wiring all of that money, and I made such a big mistake, right? At some point in not so distant future, 3 months later or so, I started collecting a check for $1,000 a month that I didn't work for. Right. And that's when the bug really bit me. I got to lean into this because at some point it will exceed my day job money.
Amen. And $1,000 a month. What year was that?
20 beginning of 2016, end of 2015 is when I bought that fourplex.
Wow. Okay. And is it too personal to ask you how many you have now? You have 340?
373 is my portfolio. It's mostly in partnership, but I've found a lot of success leaning into the stuff that's way too big for mom and pops and way too small for institutional investors. So the 30 to 50 unit size, you can still get the really good debt on. You could still get the really good property management on, but you have this opportunity to look where nobody else is looking. And that's what I love to talk about, right? So how do I fish where there's a lot of fish and not a lot of fishermen? So super boring markets, places that are, too small or too big of properties to be successful. And that's really kind of how I built where I'm at now.
Holy cow. Okay, so take notes, guys. I mean, you were forward thinking enough to say they're tearing down the dorms, so there will be need for this. You didn't just go, "Oh, I watched a podcast and this lady bought a fourplex, so I'm going to go buy a fourplex." Please don't do that. Don't do that because then you're going to be mad at Mandy, and you shouldn't be because she did her research. So, and then you also had the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm not going to do the little bitty ones, and I'm not going to do the great big ones. This is the market. So you did your research. Did you have guidance through this? Did you have coaching or anything?
I realized that I felt crazy because I was at this point where I wanted to start doing these larger ones. I was a single mom, and people who loved me told me I was being irresponsible, because to go get a $4 million loan, and now you're responsible for not just you but this other small life too, like that's irresponsible. But I knew in my core that the math matched, that I had seen it work on a smaller scale. Now I wanted to add a zero to the end of it, right? I ended up, getting around other people who did the type of thing that I wanted to do. And that's when I started a meetup in my area because I wanted to talk to other people who wanted to talk apartment investing. And that's when I found GoBundance as a member and joined as a member the minute that the women's division opened, which is kind of a really cool story because then as soon as I left my W-2, was able to, I had space in my life to serve in leadership. So it's very funny how full circle things can be. But I have seen firsthand in my life that to go further faster, you have to be around people who are doing the stuff that you want to do. And that can be a coach, it can be a community, but you got to be around people doing it.
100%. I could not agree more. I literally could not agree more. And listen to the story, guys. People who loved her. I mean, they still do today. They loved her with all their heart. And they were like, "Oh God, don't do this. This is it, the way they catch crabs, Mandy. Do you know that?"
Oh, yes. Tell the
Okay,
story.
please enlighten our audience, because that's what your loving people were doing, is they were doing that to you.
So crabs, when they're in a bucket, what they will do is when some crab starts climbing up them, the other ones will pull them down because they feel that that is keeping them safe. It's the tall poppy syndrome, it might be called too. But it's this idea of they know what safety means to them. They know what this human need of security means to them, and it doesn't look like what security means to me. So how do a thing that is a mindset struggle for me, or a thing that I constantly need to check, is what is that line? Is this fear that's holding me back from something, or is it my intuition telling me something's not right for me? So you only know the truth of that if you can get really quiet and learn how to develop and listen to your own intuition, because it won't come, the truth for you won't necessarily come from the outside.
Okay, so get really quiet. What does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh. I bring a very masculine energy to things. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, to get stuff done, you have to like go full throttle in some cases, right? And for me, a long time, I felt like being feminine or femininity in general was a thing to stuff down, because that was the thing keeping me from my goals. And getting quiet and things like yoga or meditation, like that, no, that gets in the way of my goals. I need to run as fast as I can in this direction. But what I didn't realize for a lot of years in my life, if I'm talking to myself 15 years ago, I'm going to tell younger and much less wrinkled Mandy that the thing that's most important is that you learn to listen to yourself. So I found, when my son was young, I found yin yoga. I call it nap yoga. One requirement for my life today is that I get to a meditative yoga class a week, because that's where my brain gets quiet enough for me to really listen to what's happening in my inner knowing. So that is one hack that's really helped me.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we've talked about this a million times on this podcast, and every incredibly successful person has some kind of a meditation or yoga, and when you can put the two together, wow, practice. And so success leaves clues, follow the clue. What would you recommend for our listeners if they've never done anything like this and they're like, just like you, and I hear you and I feel you on the masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
We're the work world has been so masculine for so long that we feel like we have to do it the way that they did it, and that's not the case. So what recommend, how do you get somebody started?
It doesn't have to, you don't have to be perfect. I think an important distinction for high performers, especially high performing women, is if you were a high performing woman, you're a high performing girl and you did that perfect, raise your hand, wait for, get straight A's, do all the things. And the idea of being perfect is at the forefront of what matters to you. So how do you set the goal in a way that you can absolutely achieve it? If it's just getting fully quiet, listening to the Calm app for 3 minutes, finding a free YouTube video that you can watch. I love the 6 phases meditation. I used to do that taking baths for a very long time at night to really help me get into, how does the future feel? How can I really be grateful for the past? It's a Vishen Lakhiani thing. It's free on YouTube. So first look to the free, figure out how to do a small dose of it, and then figure out what works for you.
And then get in a room. So let's just talk about GoBundance for Women, for people
Sure.
who haven't watched like the several other podcasts I've done with you and people that are in your organization. If somebody has no clue what it is, go talk to us.
Sure. We are the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous women who choose to lead epic lives. We are all, by definition, accredited investors. So we've reached a certain level of success in our lives, either via net worth or income. And, at some point when you get money figured out to a certain point, you realize that there's so much more to a really full impactful life, right? And we live by the five gardens of a really incredible life, because if you have your money figured out but you don't have health, you're not getting accountability, you're not giving back, you're not going on adventures, then you really aren't living a life that could be the very best for you. So we have what we call our map, our master abundance playbook. It's a goal setting thing that we talk about on a really regular basis, and it's not just the money goals, because the you can have the money and not have a full life. So I realized, actually, in the first time I ever did this activity, that I wasn't going on adventures, and it would mean something to my life to have more adventures. So we bought an RV, Kara, and we ended up going all across the US with the kids. And now we've got those memories, not just for us, but for them too. So we provide the accountability and the feedback in order to go further in the places you want to go in your life.
Okay, and when you talk to an average person about your net worth or something that you just bought this incredible smoking deal, um, it feels almost like you're bragging, right?
Yes, I have an example of that. That first 53 unit that I bought with partners, the same day we closed, there was like a neighborhood party. And I was so excited. This was such a long time coming. I had done all of this work and gotten all of these savings to a place that I could partake in this deal with three partners, with two partners. It was three of us. And I got the type of loan I wanted. It was in the place I wanted. I did so much work. I was so proud. And I told a neighbor that, hey, I bought this 53 unit apartment building today. And she goes, must be nice. How deflating. Yes, am I grateful for all of the things that I've been able to have, the job that helped me save that way? Yes, I absolutely am grateful for it, but so much went into it. I wanted a high five, and I got something that was deflating. So being in the room with the people who will give you a high five rather than take the wind out of your sails is one of the greatest hacks to success, because you'll go further. You if you get that high five, you'll go faster if you get that high five, and you will bring them along with you. So I say a lot that you get two arms for a reason: one to pull yourself up, but one to pull other people up along with you. And that is really the culture that we breed at GoBundance Women.
No question about it. Literally, it is so important, you guys. When I saw you telling that story, how long ago did that happen?
That was 2020, so five
That
years.
5 years ago, and the pain was still in your face from that. It's like, come on. And I get it. It had nothing to do with you, nothing whatsoever to do with you. It was her insecurity
Yes.
that made her say, must be nice. And I still can't imagine it. I can't imagine when somebody comes to you and they're happy and they're excited. Yet I happen to be married to someone who graduated from Berkeley, who is a critical thinker, and I don't share things with him. I just he gets to see it from, and I love him with all my heart. Don't have any doubt. We've been married for 20, almost 27 years, very happily. And if we were both just alike, one of us wouldn't be necessary. However,
Right.
guys, you got to be very careful who you share your goals with, your dreams with, your accomplishments with. They're not ready. They can't give you a high five. They just can't. So you
Mm.
need to get around people who can. So and you also said an awful lot about adventures. So tell me about a couple of the adventures, a couple of your very favorite that you've done with this incredible group of women.
So we do adventures together. We go on two big retreats per year to really five-star locations. We went to Mexico and swam the cenotes and did kind of a really cool photo shoot there. Like, it's something that I would never think up to do on my own. We hiked a waterfall in Costa Rica. So many cool things are happening when we're together, but also there's a challenge to do them in your own life. So we've got some members that are picking up with their young kids and living on a sailboat for a year, or going to Italy to live in a co-working space where there's curriculum for the kids for 3 or 6 months, right? So what type of adventures not just can we do together, but matter to you individually? And can you dream as a family to then go make it happen so that you can really impact your kids as well?
So how, this is such a big question. If you are in that growth mode and your family is not,
Mm-hmm.
how do you encourage them to come along instead of say, must be nice?
Yeah, family's hard, right? Because you only get the one. You're only born into the one, and the end of the day, it's on you as the person interested in growth to recognize where your family member is at, and you love them where they're at. And they have helped you from where they're at, help make you become who you are today. So just because a family member doesn't do feelings or can't really fully deeply connect or isn't interested in the next level of growing their business doesn't mean they're bad and doesn't mean that you can't have conversations with them. It does mean you understand the types of conversations you can have. You understand how deep you can get, and they will be able to participate because it's on you as the person who is curious about going further in depth to meet them where they're at.
Whew, that was good. That was priceless. That, yeah. Okay. So, now you've got your apartments and you've been with GoBundance since the very, very beginning, since the very first day. When did you become the CEO of GoBundance?
So in late 2022, the GoBundance started as a men's organization, and then at a certain point they realized, oh wow, it helps us stay vulnerable to be just boys in the room talking about our fears of failing as a father, big vulnerable things like that. But at the same time, that mechanism isn't serving women. So they rolled out the women's division at the end of 2019, early 2020. That's when I joined as a member. But then at the end of 22, they realized that this could be even more beautiful if it was for women by women. And then three of us members got together and, have been running at making it just that for it's been about 3 years now we're going on.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. I mean,
Thank
talk
you.
about how exciting to get a role. I mean, I can't even imagine how much you must love it. Tell me more. Tell me about what do you like about doing this?
The thing that fills me up and gets me out of bed every morning is the chance to see someone who's made it to wherever level, then start to dream bigger. But to be a small piece of maybe an introduction or a resource or whatever it is that changes the absolute ball game for a woman who didn't think that the ball game could be changed for her, to teach a woman to have her ask at the front of her mind, because that, in my opinion, is a big reason that women aren't in business as far along as our male counterparts in many cases, because men know how to ask, and women, we think it's going to be a burden, or we think that the fear of rejection is different, or whatever that thing is. But we have to be prepared with a really granular ask to grow whatever thing we want to grow. So those types of challenges that I get to bring into women's lives, to pull them up right along with me, to help incubate ideas, that is the thing that fills me up and gives me life.
So can you give us a story? And you don't have to give a name, but a story of someone who came, who like barely came, who they're like, I don't even feel worthy to be in GoBundance. I shouldn't even
Mm.
be around you people. And now their life is where they're like, come on, let's go.
Girl, that was me. When I first joined, I didn't think I'm the farm kid from a town of 800 people. The first retreat that I went to, I looked around like, how I'm not, I don't belong here. So it was absolutely me from the very beginning. And, honestly, I've seen some huge power shift transformations in the time that I've been part of it. Actually, a woman that you should meet for the podcast, her name is Katie Kim. She is a developer, a female developer, which is a boys club of all boys clubs. And to get to see her realize that all of the knowledge that she has, all of the tens of millions of dollars that she saves her clients on a regular basis is a really big freaking deal. For her, it's just a Tuesday, but it's such a big freaking deal that she didn't even realize, you know? So to get to be a small light to help her in that journey, it has been really, really a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. So do you have any tattoos?
Oh, yes, I do. Well, just the one. Because I always say you don't put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari, Kara. But Tony Robbins has a distinction, our shared gateway drug to personal development, a distinction that I just absolutely loved. And it hit me like a ton of bricks in the first event that I did with him. And it's this idea that things are exponential, that a very small shift, it's that slight edge that if you're playing golf, a 2 millimeter shift, the shot goes from terrible to perfect. In plastic surgery, you go from ugly to beautiful. You go from insecure to really, really proud with just a 2 millimeter shift. So I tattooed 2 millimeters onto my wrist as my little reminder that no matter what things look like, I'm just a tiny little shift from things looking completely different. And this is reminded me in a couple of times that I've needed it. It really keeps me accountable.
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. Okay, so what do you need? What are you looking for that
Mhm.
maybe our audience might be able to do?
I want to serve more people. I want to serve women who are accredited that want to get to the next level. So if for me, GoBundance Women was the thing that helped me move my business from I think this is something that I'm pretty good at to I completely left my W-2 and getting to be next to other people who were doing similar big stuff and to get new ideas from them has been completely invaluable. So any women that want to learn more about it, gobundancewomen.com. A great place to start. Fill out that inquiry form and we'll get you the ball rolling. But also I have a couple of things that might help your listeners too. Um, I, I I did this calculator, this financial freedom calculator that is just a freebie giveaway. It was actually inspired by another Tony event, the Wealth Mastery, this idea that there can be different levels of financial freedom. So I'll get you that for your show notes. And actually, as part of GoBundance Women, we are giving away my course on multifamily, buying these mid-size multis. It's usually $1,500, but we're selling it now for 100 for your listeners. So I'll get you a code.
Did you guys hear that? That's a $1,400 savings. Woo, baby. And you know what you're doing. And that's the thing. It seems so scary, but ladies and gentlemen, the average homeowner has a net worth of $455,000. The average renter has a net worth of $6,000. If you own one home, you're doing okay. But when you move from that home, keep it and then move to your next one. And there's David Bach, I think is his name, has a book called The Automatic
Millionaire.
Homeowner Millionaire.
Okay.
And it's like start. Just take your first step. Just start. And that to be able to have that course for $100 is fabulous. Are we gonna have a link to that as well?
Yes, we will. Yep. And a code. So it's scary because it's new to you. It's not scary because it's too hard for you. I see a lot of people who do that 1 and 2 single family homes that realize the automatic scale of having multiple doors under one roof because there are a lot of advantages and we talk a lot about it. But this idea of it's not harder to do, the bigger stuff. It's just more. So, how can you get prepared to really distinguish between what is fear and what is your intuition? Trust your own judgment.
And you have to get quiet to do that. And
Hmm.
it is very, very important. Breath work, are you into that?
I am. It's something that really is we do a lot of in my favorite yoga class that I am required to take every single week. It's a big part of slowing down, getting my heart rate to the EEG and the EKG, the heart mapping stuff. That if you are breathing in a way that is how you get into this beautiful state. If you are breathing in a specific type of way, that helps me make decisions in a big way.
Okay. And guys, when you're scared, when you're upset, when you're freaked out, when you're angry, you hold your
Mhm.
breath. And
Hmm.
that makes you kind of stupid, honestly. You're not at your best. And so whenever something happens, just immediately remember and take as deep a breath in as you can and then blow it all
Yeah.
out. Do that a couple times, get yourself centered, maybe do some box breathing. It is powerful. So I literally think that we could do this, no kidding, for like all day, 8 hours. I don't think we'd even miss a beat. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have?
I feel like this idea of how do you just start? How do you go from, because I think a lot in podcasts like this, and the goal is to get inspiration coming to stuff like this, right? But if you are on step one and you are looking at someone's step 400, do not compare yourself. What you need to figure out is how do you get from step one to step two? Decide what your step 400 looks like. And then how do you be kind to yourself and not judge yourself based off of someone else's step 400?
Oh my God, that's beautiful. It is beautiful. And we all start somewhere, we all do. And,
Absolutely.
it just, your story of not feeling like you belonged in GoBundance. This just happened to me about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I was at Whole Foods and I remembered, like I had completely forgotten. I remembered when I first met Tony on his cassette tapes back in 1990, that I started to realize I had to take care of my body and fit. So I
Mm.
went to Whole Foods for the first time. And I felt like I didn't belong in Whole Foods.
Ooh.
It was like there's all these rich people and I'm not one, and they're all looking at me, and they weren't. Like it's you are your own worst enemy in here. So yeah, keep it coming. Okay, so what books, your mental diet, as Tony likes to say, what books, what podcasts, what do you do to keep your mental diet so high?
I'm dyslexic, so reading, the joke in my house is I can't read, but I listen to a book or two a week. And so I really, keep pumping in as many ideas as I possibly can, because looking for those patterns is the thing that has helped me go further faster. So we were talking about that brain talk. You talk to yourself more than anybody else is going to talk to you ever. And I actually get to coach my bonus daughter's volleyball, or I have, and I continue to watch. And that you see so clearly when the conversation does not serve the kid playing the sport, right? And there's a book called Psycho Cybernetics that is all about that conversation in your head, which was incredibly impactful for me. Also, we talked about this before we started airing, this Think and Grow Rich for women. um, most people don't realize that there is an updated version of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Sharon Lechter, who is a woman who I absolutely adore, she was co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and has done a lot of stuff with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. But she updated it not only with newer versions of the examples, but also ones that are how a female brain works, which has impacted me quite a lot too. And shameless plug, my business partner, Kelly Resendez, who you've had on the podcast here, and I started our own podcast called Power Up Your Life because of that idea of, if you're on step 400, I used to be poor, but now I'm rich. Like, that story doesn't help you go from step one to step two. So we interview thought leaders and people who are on step 400, but how did you deal with these things when you felt stuck? When you hit something and you need to get clarity on an issue, what do you do so that people can start to see patterns to move themselves through? So that's been really fun to do, and it's something that I listen to as well.
And Kelly's book is absolutely phenomenal. I think that will probably, there's a few books that I like every year, and now I think it's going to be the Think and Grow Rich for Women. Kelly's book and The Big Leap are just
Mm.
such great books. Okay, so you're on Think Your Way to an Epic Life. So what tips can you give our folks to help them think their way to their own epic life, to get to their step two?
I feel like you definitely need to control the conversation going on in your head. You need to recognize when it serves you and when it doesn't serve you. Simply learning how to delineate from this serves me and this doesn't serve me, you will go further. So you got to be careful what you think, because that turns into words. Your words turn into actions, your actions turn into habits, and your habits are your life. So understand that it all starts with how you're talking to yourself.
I love it. Talk to yourself. Don't listen to yourself. Mandy, thank you so much for just, oh my gosh, you poured out so much incredible value here. And guys, if you will take any of it and just take little baby steps, your trajectory changes with tiny 2 millimeter changes.
2 millimeters. Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. This has been fun.
Me too.